This is Taylor and Paula for our PLC presentation. We decided to work together because we are both a part of the same sixth grade PLC. For our presentation, this will be our table of contents for those of you that are watching. And then our agenda, which we will actually print and hand out to all of our PLC mates when we do get to present this. But we don't want to spend too much time on reading over all of that to you. So my vision statement really focuses on developing students into critical thinkers who can communicate in and out of the classroom, making sure they're respectful of people from all walks of life and are willing to continually work towards growth in their academic and personal lives. Paula?
All right, and my vision statement for my classroom is just to make sure that my kids are college and career ready through every lesson we have, through every teachable moment we encounter. I just want to make sure that they will be functioning citizens in the workplace, and then once they get through middle school and high school, they will be able to hold a job or go to college if they choose.
And then the overall problem that we found is that because we teach sixth grade, we are getting students from numerous elementary schools within the JCPS system, and that the majority of them are below grade level and lacking foundational reading skills at their current level. So in my classroom, this looks like reading abilities that can range from anywhere from usually about third grade to high school. But overall, students are struggling with reading comprehension.
And in my classroom, I'm seeing that the majority of kids are struggling with reading comprehension. I have about 10 kids in my class, and 100% of them do struggle with reading comprehension. And then they vary from lexile levels from beginning reader to fifth grade. So it's all over the place.
All right, some strategies that we wanted to focus on within close reading would be annotation, repeated readings, KWL charts, and reciprocal teaching. Annotation was one that our school really focused on this past school year. So all teachers within our PLC would be familiar with the strategies with that, as well as the repeated reading, KWL, and reciprocal teaching. They're familiar with them, but they don't necessarily use those second three. And then the articles that we found. The first one, Paula, I'll let you talk about those two.
So the first article that we have, we printed out for you all, it's just further in detail about closed reading, what it looks like in your classroom, how you can implement it in your classroom, things that you say in order to provoke thoughts whenever students are reading, things like that. And then the second article that I have printed out for you is a research journal that someone has done research on the positive effects of comprehension through closed reading. And then if it's a long article, so if you go down to the end, it's like the last page, they have a summary where they tell you specifically all of the positive effects that they encountered with closed reading.
All right, so summary of implementation within my classroom. Within the general education's setting, we're going to use very similar practices because, again, we've been trying to align as a PLC. So we are going to use direct instruction and work in small groups eventually after that direct instruction. So our direct instruction in the very beginning would be over annotation. We would do a whole group practice with this. And then we would have a CFA or a common formative assessment over that skill as a skill to assess reading comprehension. Once students have been assessed, we would grade our work, group ourselves into three groups. I would have a group of students that have reached mastery. I would have a group that has or is close to reaching mastery but has not yet reached mastery, and then I would have a group that would need further one-on-one direct instruction with me. The group that demonstrated mastery would be coaching or tutoring on a repeated reading my middle group, and then the lowest group would be sitting with me again. And we would also be utilizing things like repeated readings and KWL charts to help improve reading comprehension.
Right, and then in my classroom, like I said, I have about 10 kids in each of my classes. And so what it looks like in the special ed setting would be that we model a whole group of reading and annotating together. And then whenever we break off into our flexible reading groups, then we can practice that again with their instructional level text as opposed to grade level. And then they can also practice doing it with their independent reading if they're reading something that they're struggling with comprehending. And then it can also be used as an intervention for the repeated readings. The kids can, as if they don't understand what we're reading as a whole group, then I can expose them to that material again in their flexible reading groups, and we can go through how to deeper annotate it and think aloud again so they can actually comprehend it and they can see the purpose behind their annotations.
All right, so our summary and next steps. Our initial lesson, first we'd introduce annotation to students. We would need about a block period to explain to students what close reading is, how we do it, why it's necessary, all the ins and outs of annotation. Making sure that we are giving students grade level reading assignments to go along with those. We would need a document camera to model to students how to annotate as they follow along so that we would get that direct instruction piece. Giving students the opportunity to explore different ways to annotate, showing them that there's kind of a vast majority of ways to annotate, and these are kind of the skills that they can kind of hone in on and kind of find their way. And give students an independent reading assignment as a formative assessment that they can demonstrate the annotation skill, and on top of that, answer those comprehension questions to follow. And then our next steps would just be to create a unified schedule for weekly implementation of close reading practices. That way, it's not just a skill we touch on once, but it's something we can go back to and kind of circle back to over and over again so students really are understanding it and utilizing it. And then designing a common benchmark assessment for all members of the PLC to use to measure their progress.
And that's all we have for you all. So hopefully you understand the importance of closed reading and like how we plan to implement it next year. And I think it'd be a really good thing for us.
So within our PLC, we would obviously link this presentation if they wanted to kind of review this material one last time. But also, the biggest thing with our PLC is that we love to be able to kind of turn and talk and discuss all of this. So at this time, we would really kind of talk about what implementation in their classroom would be, what their vision statements for their own classroom would be, and then how we could utilize these strategies that we talked about to help improve reading strategy or reading comprehension within their class.
Mm-hmm. And then if we have time, if we're still good on time, we want to do like a teacher takeaway, like one question, one suggestion, and one takeaway that you all got from our presentation.
All right, leave your comments below. We would love to see them.
All right.